set up recording it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nexus. I'm really excited for you to meet my guest today. We have Randall Jantzen with Leadership Resources. Welcome, Randall.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Renee.
It's always super fun to see Randall, and he gives the best hugs, so I'm just going to give a plug for that.
Guilty.
In case you run into him, you just take him up on one of those great hugs.
Oh, thanks, Renee.
Yes, I've always really enjoyed getting to know Randall. He has great insights. Leadership Resources does amazing things, and can't wait for you to hear more about it. So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So Randall, tell us about yourself. Where are you from, and how did you make it to Lincoln?
Sure. So I was raised on a dairy farm, small town dairy farm, 25, I think, head of dairy cattle at a time. Sometimes we get up to 50. But so it was just to support us. Mm-hmm. My favorite times were not spent in the parlor. My favorite times were spent out on the tractor. And so even though we were heavily involved in the milking industry, it was more fun was out on the tractor and the four-wheeler. If my sisters ever see this, they will say, yeah, right, you spent more time on the four-wheeler ATV out herding cattle and chasing, playing, having a good time. And so I grew up about an hour south of Lincoln, and so small community near Plymouth, Nebraska, between the Beatrice and Fairbury area.
Okay.
Headed out this weekend to go find a whitetail. And
good. Hopefully you do. Yeah, a big rack, right?
Thank you. Big rack, but preferably a lot of meat.
Yes.
Because the meat tastes a little bit better than the rack does, and I think my ego has finally gotten out of the way a bit where feed the family.
Okay, good. We want some good meat.
There we go.
My son's going hunting too, so
that's
exciting. I forgot that it's kicking off this weekend. So
Saturday morning.
Very exciting.
Hunters get out there.
Yeah.
So be safe, have fun.
So you're just a small town country boy.
I'm a small town country boy that didn't really realize what I was going to do with my life. It was somewhat of a fixed mindset. I wasn't quite sure what I would do, and my dad really challenged me to say, you're probably not going to be coming back to this farm. It's small. We're not going to grow it to where we can support multiple families. Be thinking a little bit bigger is what I took away from it. And so it didn't really hit me till about my junior year of high school where the direction I wanted to go. And quite frankly, the growth mindset that's pretty commonly talked about lately. You've got the fixed versus the growth mindset. The growth mindset from a physical perspective hit me about junior year when I realized, okay, I drank my whole milk. I've eaten steak all my life. I've got a big frame. Now let's actually put some muscle on this body and see what we can do. Life got a lot easier when you were stronger and could do things and were more capable. And that transferred into my athletics. And so being a big farm kid turned into a big athletic farm kid, and that made life a lot more fun. That allowed me to then transition into college where I got to play college ball.
Fun.
I gained a bunch of weight and got to play for a few years, had a couple busted knees, but rebounded, finished out a few years, got my degree in exercise science. And so when I was in high school, I realized, okay, lifting weights is fun. Doing crazy kind of lifting weights is super fun, and picking up super heavy weights is fun. And so I got a degree in exercise science. I loved the opportunity to go in and lift and interact with people. And it was like, and you and I were talking before saying, you know what, it's hard to go talk to people. I don't like to talk to people too. Now I'm like, I can't wait to talk and meet people and hear their story and see what's interesting about them. Where did Renee come from? What happened in her life that got her to this table today where we're on Facebook and we're having a great conversation.
That is always a great conversation when you're like, where are you from and how did you get here? Like, I love hearing this story, so I don't want to interrupt. Keep going.
Totally. How do you get the onion peeled so that the superficial answers to, okay, what really happened?
Yeah.
What were the fun times or the stressful times? How did you get where you got?
What was the turning point? Because something generally is like a lead indicator of why they're there.
Yes. And so lifting and getting into athletics more, the summer before my senior football year, finally went to a camp, and my dad and Mom were sitting there talking. I had a friend who was going down to the K-State camp and going to the university camp, and they're like, oh, that's a lot of money to send you to those things. The school's going to help us get you to Doane, and you can go to Doane and have the summer training camp for football. And I go there, and coincidentally, my college roommate also was there, and he won the defense MVP, and I won the offense MVP. And I come back with plaques and water bottles and this towel that was folded up for the 3-man pull. And my dad's like, "You can play football. Like you can do this." And so it really kicked off that, like, oh, let's do this. Let's play football. Let's do well at wrestling, and let's go have fun this senior year. And so getting into college, getting my degree done, and then saying, you know what, this is enough. I'm ready to go out and live my real life. I started personal training. I came back to Lincoln. So I got my NSCA certification so that I could personal train here at Prairie Life.
Oh, cool.
I also did some training at the YMCA, and it was just a lot of fun. What happened, though, was when I was in high school, even though I loved athletics, my passion was more music, and I had a deep, deep connection with my music teacher. She was a phenomenal lady, very inspirational, said I would never get anywhere with sports. I love direct conversation, and it still paid for college, but she was right. Right. But
Thank you. Question mark?
It was painful, but it was true. And so as I started down the path of personal training, she and some other experiences and getting exposed to nonprofit work and then getting exposed to the American Cancer Society through different people and different times, they presented me an opportunity to come work with them. And I thought, of course, this is meaningful work. The reason I bring up my music teacher is one day I remember distinctly sitting in the back row of class, not because I was a bad kid, because that's where they had the tenor bass folks. She comes in and pulls off this wig. And everybody's shocked. She is completely bald. And it's like, oh, that makes sense. All those times running back to the back office and hearing these vomiting sounds and missing certain days. And it was like, oh, man. And then I got the opportunity to do something about that, specifically in the breast cancer fundraising and event planning. That was pretty special.
So meaningful. Like, it brought meaning to your work, for sure.
Yes. And so I got to then transition into helping cancer patients, helping the caregivers, creating awareness. That led me to becoming a regional and an area manager. And through that, I got to meet a gentleman called Boyd Ober, and truly my mentor, and a guy who changed, I talked about growth mindset before, but changed my mental growth and helped me see I could be more and I could do more, and I wasn't limited to where I was at. And so Boyd came on as the Real Men Wear Pink chair, helped me launch that campaign and set records across the country. He has been pivotal in making that event a success, came onto my board, and I was telling him, I will come wash whiteboards, I will come haul your trash out, I will do what I need to do to be a part of what you're doing, because he was pouring into me from a mentor and a coach and helping me to think operationally. We started using L10 meetings in a nonprofit, which at the time I think was relatively new or unheard of, and we put some real structure into a nonprofit, and at least ours, and it made a real difference. Scoreboards, dashboards,
process.
Boom. And I finally got my chance, probably, well, it would be about 4 years ago, where it was like, hey, here's an opportunity. I want you to come work here. And I was like, done, sign. I don't need time to think about it. I want to be a part of whatever's going on here.
Oh my gosh.
So for the past 4 years.
Well, that was a huge get for Boyd, though. Let's just say.
Oh, thank you. You're too kind.
So then you were probably pretty new at Leadership Resources when we met.
I was.
I was. Okay.
Everything I had learned to meet people and grow my network, and really doing that through actually caring about people and not checking a box and not adding a card to my Rolodex. Yes, I still have one on my desk. Do I use it? No, it's more of a memento that I set there. But making meaningful relationships was super important to me at that point, because I'm like, why am I going to talk to somebody and talk about the rain and then move on? Like, that is just a waste of my human existence and why I was put here. And so it was super fun to be able to meet wonderful people like you, to meet you, and to see how you build relationships and how you network and how you grow business and the impact that has on the community. Shifting from asking and begging to, let's be very, very intentional. No disrespect about the begging. That's somewhat of an inside joke for the nonprofits. But how can you make an intentional difference from a business perspective? And how can we help individuals who have maybe never been exposed to what leadership looks like, what good leadership looks like, to businesses that have maybe never been exposed to operational excellence, where processes work. You're getting out of the business and working on the business. Meetings are smoother. And I say smoother because it's never going to be perfect, but things get better. There's a
more productive.
Yes, more productive. And so the entrepreneurs of this world can do what they do best. Get this engine running, go find another engine to start building. So.
Hear, hear.
So.
Yeah, that is definitely your guys' biggest strength. I think coaching is so important in business. I talk about that having direction and a sounding board is so critical. So tell us a little bit more, like, specifically about leadership resources and some of the services you guys offer, maybe even a story of somebody that you guys have helped.
Yes. So I'll paint a little bit of a picture for you and anybody who else is listening to this. The first time you are responsible for somebody or a group of people, there's a lot of things that will run through your head saying, wow, I always said that when I got into management, I'd do this and that.
I'll do it different.
And this person was incompetent. Now I realize, like, they had a lot going on. They may still be incompetent, but they had a lot going on that makes that job very hard.
Yeah.
And when people chase manager roles or supervisor roles or director or VP roles for the title or for the money, they're missing the mark. And when they get there, they realize, oh gosh, this
is going to be hard.
Yes, this is a lot harder. People, you are now working for these people, and there are many different people with many different emotions and many different challenges and many different hurdles that they're going to be going through. And how do you work with them? If there was one simple way, we'd go down to Barnes & Noble and pick up a book that said, here's the guide to leadership. But the challenge is there are so many different complexities and so many different nuances that come in. How do we help create a toolkit of leaders as an emerging who's never been exposed to anything, as far as how does a good manager delegate? How does a good manager have good communication? How does a good manager motivate an unmotivated team? Herding the cats when it's as hard as herding real life cats. And so, right? I mean, these leaders are getting to a point where they've got to actually figure this out. And how do they do it without tools? Well, they can take all the time they need, but they still might not ever get there. So how do we help them expedite or accelerate the path to having the tools they need? To the senior leader, the senior executive, who maybe has been promoted to that next role and are maybe 70% fit for that role, there's still that learning gap. They can't just run harder because they've already maxed themselves out on what they can do in an 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour day. We have to run smarter, but also build systems and process so that we can. So when we're working as a senior leader, we've got to be able to work with our people, sometimes at the drop of a hat, sometimes at the knock on the door if you've got an open door policy, and still get your rocks, still get your goals, still get your objectives done that you've been assigned for. They're only 24 hours in a day, and sleep is important.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Well, you have to do things differently. What got you here will not get you here.
Yeah.
You have to create new systems and processes. So taking leaders through our Accelerate Leadership program is one way we do that. It's not about flash in a pan, weekend, seminar, workshop. This is about creating habits and behaviors that are sustainable. Now, it takes time. We take people generally through an 18-month process. But what happens is people are worried, oh, that's too long. How do we expedite this and get this faster in like a week or 2 weeks or a month? Well, we can't do that. But what we can do is say, after a week, after 4 weeks, we're going to start creating some habits, some new habits and some new behaviors. And those are going to compound throughout that journey. So people are going to start changing right away. They're going to start growing and developing. But this is a journey to solidify those habits and realize, what do I actually need?
Yeah.
And oftentimes, as a leader of people in the workforce, we still realize that at home, it's a separate hat that we put on, but we have to lead effectively there.
Yeah.
And when we're out with clients or customers, we've got another hat that we need to wear. So how do we create habits throughout our entire self that are sustainable to get us to the next level? Because everybody knows once you start having kids, that adds complexity. When you start getting older, that adds complexity.
Yeah.
There are so many different pieces that come. How do you build systems within yourself to operate at a high level while still not losing your mind?
Do you think, do you consider morning routine to be one of those things, or what would be something that the viewers could take away from this and maybe a little gem they could start with?
So we had a team building exercise last week where we went out to the food bank and helped stock boxes and of food for, I think, 2 weeks supplies for some of these people.
Oh, wow.
It was fascinating, and our team, so competitive, got after it. We were having some competition to see who could get done fastest. Team winner, ended up winning that one. Todd, if you're out there.
I don't know. I suppose you won.
We all won because the community wins, right? True. So we also did a team building event exercise after that, and one of them was a famous quote that was famous throughout your family growing up. And one of mine, which I didn't say at the time, but my dad always says, early to bed, early to rise makes Jack healthy, wealthy, and wise. And so when you talk about morning routines, I'm thinking about, okay, we always went out and milked the cows at 5 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. Those cows needed to be milked 7 days a week, something I wasn't too keen on, but I also respected and appreciated the early mornings that my dad was getting up and doing that when I had sports or activities that said, you know what, I'm going to take care of handling the milkings in the morning and generally at night at that point when athletics got big. But he taught me that getting up early and getting a routine and getting consistent makes life a whole heck of a lot easier. Because when you have consistency in your life, some people thrive on the ups and downs. I challenge them on that because when you can smooth out that curve of life's ups and downs, you can know what to expect. The highs might not be as high, but the lows aren't as low either. And so life gets manageable, you can get more done, and you can actually start achieving what you want to achieve. So I talk about my routine personally, and not for everybody. I get up at 5 o'clock. I put my to-do list together. I spend quiet time. I go work out. And then I'm ready for my day to help feed the kids, to help get them off to school, to get off to work myself, and start the day. I've already checked the box on making sure that I've done the things I need to do to be successful. And if you talk about adding a brick of confidence every day to my own self-confidence, that's one way I do it, when I make commitments to myself and I keep them.
Yeah.
You kill confidence when you make commitments to yourself and you don't keep them.
I say that all the time, even just as much as like breaking plans with friends. You know, like if you do that on a regular basis, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to your friends. Like,
right.
I don't think people will continue to believe you, and you won't continue to believe yourself, right?
Right.
So it really does matter if you lie to yourself. So
it does.
I think that's a really important insight. So
thank you.
Well, that's a great analogy for a morning routine, early to bed, early to rise. My mom had all sorts of weird sayings when we were growing up. One was like, it's a horse apiece. It's the same as 6 one way, half a dozen another. You get a horse, I get a horse. I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah, so that would have been what I would have. It's a horse apiece. I'll say that once in a while. It's weird.
Well, now I know. And now thousands and millions of viewers know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The millions of fans. Thank you for all listening in. I'm curious what the audience actually would ask you. I'm sure they have good questions, but I'll try to muddle through myself.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
And typically, I don't talk this much. You've got me. You're such
a great,
easy person to engage with. I am not controlling myself much better than I love
today. It. No, like you have really good stories, good insight, and I always enjoy our conversation because I always gain something from it. So I think you always try to pour into people when you're talking, and so you're always adding value. So
I appreciate
maybe what's one piece of advice that you could give someone else out there that is maybe wanting like a career change? It sounds like you kind of at one point were kind of wanting this in your life and you made steps in that direction, but what's something that our viewers could do if they want to make a change?
Well, right now is a fantastic time to be investing in yourself. And you will never, that's kind of a strange thing to say because it's never a bad time to invest in yourself. Your biggest investment right now, whether it's in real estate or the stock market, I don't know, I'm not a financial guy, but the one thing you won't screw up is investing in yourself, or
That's
you won't
true.
waste your money if you invest in yourself. And so my biggest advice now is continue to grow and develop. And if you don't know the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, a phenomenal book by Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K, is called Mindset. That was a pivotal book in my mind for changing and growing myself. And what that did was help me realize, okay, I am maybe not as passionate about what I'm doing right now as I once was. Mm-hmm. So let's find something that I can feel like I can give more energy towards, and still, instead of trying to suck out energy that takes from somewhere else.
Like when you wake up in the morning, you're ready to go do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember thinking before I started, and even the first probably 3 weeks, I couldn't hardly sleep because I was so excited to get to the office. I was so excited to get downtown. I love
hearing that.
So excited to be a part of this. They joked, said the honeymoon should be over. And it was like 2 years before it really got into, okay, we are on such a growth trajectory. Like, honeymoon's kind of over, but this is still...
I'm having so much fun.
Exactly. So if anybody's listening, like, focus on the core values of the company. And if they are actually meaningful to that business and not the pay to play, I will never judge anybody for having honesty, safety. Those are good, but those are somewhat pay to play. How are they using them as their core values? Because ours, love what we do. I'll say GSD. Get blank done. Better together.
I have had that on my calendar before.
Perfect.
Yeah.
A continuous development. These are all core values that we know and breathe and live every day. We've got glass walls. We'll write them up on our teammates' glass wall when we see them living a core value.
Oh,
we know
that's
where
cool.
we're headed and we know who we are. And so align yourself with the core values of a business, because when I first met Boyd, he said, these are our core values. If that aligns, then you know what? We should have another conversation. I looked at him, I read him, I thought about him. I said, let's keep going. Because first of all, GSD was pretty amusing to actually have.
I love that that's in the core values.
Yes.
So amazing.
It's just the personality where we have so much fun. It's hard work. When I was the 10th employee 4 years ago, and our business is 20 years old. At 15, 16 years, we had about 10 employees. Now we're at 26. And we're going to probably rapidly scale here in the next year and a half, because things are clicking and people are finding value in what we do. So
right. You guys are making a difference. Money invested with you is proving to be a high return. And so people are sharing it with their friends and their colleagues, and they're bringing more people to you, which is great, because you guys are just
it's fantastic,
amazing.
We're being a referral business and a service business. We heavily rely on referrals by wonderful business leaders and individuals like yourself. So,
well, I sure hope that I continue to send you amazing people, as you always do for me.
Thank you.
I take any introduction that you give me very seriously. So, yes, thank you very much for all of your support over the years, and I intend to work with Leadership Resources in the near future.
I'm excited.
It's kind of an exciting thing. And if anyone out there is looking for help within your organization, or just need to ask some questions, reach out to Randall on Facebook. He's tagged here. And then you guys also do kind of an assessment, right?
We do. We do an organizational health assessment.
Yes.
And so it's a great time for that.
Yes.
It's a time investment. It's not a money investment to have me or one of my team come out and visit with you, ask you some questions, see what your level of employee engagement is. Those are driving factors, especially going into a recession, of success rate.
Yeah.
So we'll ask a few questions, give you a little bit of a debrief on what we've uncovered, and say, here you go. We can either help or we can't, but we can probably direct you in the right direction. If it's not us.
Yeah. So I think we'll wrap it up on that note. Thank you again for coming in today. I really appreciate your time. And I'm sure everybody really enjoyed listening. And hopefully I'll get to see you again soon. And we'll see everybody out there in a few weeks. So we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.